What's up, Raider Nation? Jahan and Rashawn back with another episode of our podcast. And what a thrilling game against the Minnesota Vikings. Absolute barn burner against that team. Um I you want to start? I don't even know where to start with this one.
Yeah, one of the greatest defensive matchups of all time, huh? I mean,
Excellent defensive matchup. Yeah.
honestly, I mean, everyone's gonna hate us for saying this, but if you're at that point in the game, you can't score a point. Do you really, if you're at 0-0 with 2 minutes left in the game, do you really deserve to be in the playoffs? No. So losing that game is honestly one of the best things you could have done, for the team going forward. I mean, we've said this before, AP is not the guy. I mean, AP is a good leader and, he hypes up the guys, but he's not a head coach. He can't put together that perfect offensive and defensive, to work together. And the defense is good. I mean, let's get it straight. Like allowing 3 points, like
Yeah.
it almost seems like a joke saying that we won 3-0, but I mean we lost 3-0, right? So that's what I mean. I mean, it kind of feels like this game was sort of a win with how the
Yeah.
defense played. I mean, honestly, like now we're at number six. We're holding the number six pick in the draft. We're playing Chargers on a short week. I mean, it honestly couldn't have gone any better. I mean, besides wasting 4 hours watching that game of just punts and defense was just holding on every third down, it seemed, until the end. Um, it turned out okay for us. It turned out okay that we lost that game, and I think that puts us in a better position for next year. And with the sixth pick in the draft, we'll have a good opportunity to get a really good quarterback, in the top 10, maybe even the top five, like you were just
Yeah.
saying before we started recording. If we lose out, the chance of getting a top three pick is extremely high, which in that sense, you get Drake Mayer, you get Caleb Williams. I think even in the top 10, you get Jaden Daniels. Because I think Giants have found their guy with Tommy DeVito. And I don't think they're going to be taking a quarterback. I think Danny Dimes is out there and Tommy DeVito's in. So it's looking more likely. I mean, I saw this mock draft today that said we're picking that Michigan guy, JJ, whatever his name is.
The only way we'd pick him if we get Harbaugh, I think. If
Yeah,
we get
I
Harbaugh, we'll
just
pick
I
him.
just saw this Matt Miller's thing, his mock draft, and it's like we picked this guy from JJ McCarthy or something. I don't even know what the guy's name is.
Yeah, he's their quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously I've never heard of this guy, so I mean, hope, Michigan has everything except, an elite quarterback from what I know. I mean, what do I know? I don't watch Michigan games. I don't even watch college football this year that much. I mean, college football is just a disaster.
Yeah. And okay, a few things I'll say is, it's easy to come on here and just be negative all the time about AP and all that, but I feel like we've covered that already. There's nothing more to say about Antonio Pierce as a head coach. He's simply not going to be the head coach. Like there it's you're going to see people comment like, "Oh, he deserves a chance this. He deserves a chance. Give him a chance." Bisaccia this. He's not a head coach in the NFL, plain and simple. Like we're going to move off this guy. So I think this is going to be the last time we mention it, unless we go on a magical run and somehow get the tiebreakers. But it's not going to happen. The season is over. Um, and like you said, coming down the stretch of that game, I was actually kind of happy that we lost because um, winning does you no good at this point. Like we're in draft season now. It's time to get our quarterback of the future. Aiden O'Connell had a stretch of two nice games, but other than that, he's not the guy. He's a statue in the pocket, can't move. No awareness, like not the guy. And I honestly wanted to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. I was texting you at halftime, say, put Jimmy in to start the third quarter, and AP didn't listen. And I think, do you think if we had Jimmy Garoppolo, we would have won that game? I think 100% we would have won that game. So it's tough to really say where we're at, and I don't know if we're gonna do a full rebuild of blowing the entire roster up because we do have pieces, but these pieces just don't seem to mesh. Like you said, there's no the offense, the defense, we just can't put it together as a unit. And um But hats off to the defense, though. I will say that. Um, we have constantly shitted on this guy, but Tyree Wilson, he played decent yesterday. That was I would say that's his best game as a pro. He was
I
getting
think
pushed
so.
off the line.
I agree with that. I think Tyree Wilson played really well yesterday. We were mentioning his name a few times here and there. You know, he was getting in the backfield and he was, using that bull rush move still over and over. But I don't know who it was. I think Christian Darrisaw was on their right side, their right tackle, and he's kind of a bomb. I mean, Tyree was just overpowering him and getting some pressure in on Josh Dobbs. But when Mullins came in the game, that was all forgotten. I mean, they got tired by the end of it because they were on the field for a majority of the game with the offense going three and out every single possession. And it doesn't help that Jacobs got hurt either. So looking forward to Thursday night, it's like you you shut down Jacobs. I mean, his knee is clearly hurt. He has nothing to prove. I mean, well, he is in a contract year, but I mean, this season he's just been horrible. I think that kind of ends that story. Like he's not going to get a max deal. He's not going to get a big one of these like running back RBU contracts these guys have been shooting for. He's not going to get one of those because of the year he had. I mean, it's not, you could blame McDaniels, you could blame whoever for the Raiders record, but you can't blame anyone but him for holding out in the offseason and then coming in and just having like 2.5 to 3 yards of carry until just
Yeah,
recently. And then even this past week, he got hurt, but it's just not effective running. I mean,
yeah,
just really not effective running. Our ground game this year was really non-existent, but I
yeah.
mean, playing Zamir White the last few games is not going to do anything either. I don't think Zamir White is anything special. But now with Jacobs, I think he comes back to the Raiders on a not a big contract at all. Maybe a 2 to 3 year deal, worth maybe like 9 million at most a year, maybe like
Yeah.
24 to 27 million. It seems legit, for him, but
It does, but I don't even know if I'd want to do that as the Raiders because you look at it, you say what you want about McDaniels, but he was coaching the team when Jacobs was the leading rusher in the NFL. So he had success. The offensive line was the same coming into this year. The coach was the same. The quarterback was different, but I mean Jimmy G and Derek Carr are very similar players. People say Derek has an arm, but I mean, we've seen Derek Carr. He's not some all-time great quarterback stretching out the defense. So everything was constant except Josh Jacobs holding out. So, I mean, he's had a few good games, but he just hasn't been the same guy. He hasn't been as explosive. Um, and I don't know if we're gonna take him back because do you really want to pay 9 million a year for a running back when like look at all these teams drafting running backs in the third, fourth round and they're hitting. Like Jonathan Taylor was a second round pick, Kamara, third round pick.
yep.
You can go on and on. So I don't know if that's the best move for us. I could see even going to a team like Dallas or the Eagles who have money to spend and earn win now mode. But like I'm more in the mindset of we need to blow it up now because like Davante Adams is, he's hailed as a great route runner, the best receiver in the league, but I don't see it week in and week out. You can blame the quarterback, you can blame the coaching. But this guy is he's getting blanket covered like every single play. He's just not open. So you can say what you want, but a lot of his success was predicated on the offense last year. His touchdowns were long bombs when he was schemed open by our friend Josh McDaniels. So like he hasn't been doing stuff one on one this year that's made him a difference maker. So if you're paying the guy $30 million a year, you expect him to be like 30 million is allotted for two receivers, not for one. So when you're paying one guy 30 million, he's got to be a superstar. And Devontae is not anymore. It's sad to say, but he's old now. He's 31, 32. Like receivers don't last this long. And especially a guy like him who doesn't have speed, like I just don't see it with him anymore. So we can say we have these offensive pieces, but like Jacobs and Devontae, but these guys have just not provided for us. So like we saw, we traded Waller away, who was again he was hailed as this offensive weapon, and like I think it was a good move to get rid of Waller. We have Michael Mayer now, so like Jacobs and Adams are you could say they're the leaders of our team, but it hasn't been working. So I think it's time to blow it up, especially offensively. Like our defense has been good, but our offense is the worst offense in the league. And so these guys are just not they're not producing, and I think it's time to move off them.
Uh I I don't know if it's time to move on from Davante. I mean, Davante, I mean, he regressed this year, definitely. He regressed and he was unable to get that kind of burst off the line like he usually, he's a fantastic route runner and he usually creates separation, but he was just blanketed in coverage, like you said, all year long. But it doesn't help when you don't have a quarterback who can get him the ball either. I mean, when the QB can't throw the ball more than 5, 6 yards downfield, I mean that's just not gonna get it done, especially for Davante. I mean, his yardage totals at 867 this year. And given that he plays out the next 5 games, he'll probably hit that 1,000 yard mark again. I think his lowest since was like 2017. He had 997. I was just looking at
Hmm.
this earlier today. And since then he's had 1,000 yards above every single year, with 2020 being his best year. I think he had 1,500 yards and like 18 touchdowns, which that year Green Bay got robbed. I mean, Green Bay was in the NFC Championship. Brady went to Green Bay and beat the shit out of them in the NFC Championship game. I mean, it should have been Green Bay versus Kansas City that
Yeah,
year in the Super Bowl. But uh man, defensively we don't even need to talk because the defense is solid. I just hope they keep Patrick Graham because he really changed the culture around the defense. So if they keep him, they should be okay. On offense, though, getting rid of Davante, I don't think solves anything. I think it's more the quarterback. If you place like one of these rookies in there, even Jaden Daniels, Drake May, if for some reason you trade up and get Caleb Williams, which is probably not going to happen because he's the clear favorite, which for the record, I don't think he's going to be very good in the NFL. Honestly, I don't think he's going to be very good in the NFL because he's a head case. I mean, he's crazy. He's after the money. He's so money minded and money driven that I don't think it matters to him. I mean, this year USC choked in football due to this NIL thing. The NIL thing
yeah,
is the only reason why USC came out flat on every single game. I
yeah,
mean, it's like I honestly can't believe it. The NIL, I mean, he was so distracted shooting commercials for Wendy's and Dr. Pepper and Postmates every damn week. He wouldn't even come to practice. I mean, I know people at USC, this guy wouldn't even show up to practice. He'd be shooting commercials and shit. And then his dad has the balls to say, "Oh, Kale, we want minority ownership in our team, like that drafts us."
yeah,
Like, you really think Robert Kraft is gonna give you minority ownership to some dude who doesn't even know, like just came from Oklahoma out of all places, like, or DC? He's from DC actually originally. So they're just gonna give some generational talent minority ownership in the team, like crazy, crazy, crazy. But a dark horse candidate for Raiders quarterback next year, I would put Justin Fields on there. And I mean, our cousin Sean has said it so many times. He used to tell me like 2 years ago that Justin Fields is going to come to the Raiders. And, now I kind of see it because Bears are going to have number one overall. They decide to move on from Justin Fields and take Caleb Williams. Justin Fields is going to they'll either cut him or he'll be released or he'll be traded. And after that, it's like, okay, do the Raiders jump on it? Justin Fields, mobile quarterback, has an arm, has thrown fairly well in games that he's, thrown well in and fairly poorly in games. He has a turnover problem, that's for sure. He can't hold on to the ball for shit. Um, but I would put him up there on that list, if we decide not to go the rookie route, which I don't think is possible at this point. I think you have to draft a rookie quarterback wherever it is if you're going to have a top 5 pick, which is most likely now. But it all starts with Thursday night football. You have to go out there and put up a stinker and you have to lose that game. Because if you win that game, then it's like you fall from sixth place, you fall all the way to like 12th. You fall to
yeah.
like between 10th to 12th. And it's like over there, then it's like, okay, maybe the Giants decide, they say fuck Tommy DeVito and they go up and they draft, Jaden Daniels, which is exactly what this mock draft was saying, the one that just came out today, Matt Miller said that, oh, Giants aren't satisfied with him. They're going to trade up and draft this other guy.
Yeah.
So honestly, it could go either way. It could really go either way, and it all starts with who we get as coach. And I don't know who we're gonna get. Honestly, even like I was playing Madden the other day, and I was trying to figure out like, okay, like I'm gonna do like a franchise mode and like fired
Yeah.
McDaniel takes.
We've all been there when our team's struggling. We hop on
Yeah,
franchise and try to fix it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And hopping on, like I'm like, what am I gonna name the coach? Like I don't even know who we're gonna get. Like we're gonna not gonna get John Harbaugh, or I mean Jim Harbaugh, or maybe we're gonna get one of these coordinators, these young guys, which that would put us totally in a rebuild. I think getting one of these young minds, I think it would take at least 2 to 3 years before we win any games. I think we'll have 2 3 years within top 10 selections in the draft, but it's been that way. It's
Yeah.
been that way having these high picks.
Yeah. And like you said, the whole if we win, we go to the number 12 pick. We've always been just outside the reach of a generational prospect.
Yeah.
Like Cleveland Farrell, there was no one in that draft. Like, okay, Nick Bosa was there, Quinnen Williams went, but like you can look at the names, like who else do they expect us to draft there? Like Devin White was picked after, but I don't even know what he's doing now. So like we've always been just outside the reach of like where you want to be in the draft. Like last year, we were number 7, I think, and all the generational prospects were gone. Will Anderson, Stroud, they're all gone. So it's it's sad to say, but I mean, I want to lose out as a fan. I feel like it'd be malpractice as a fan if you're rooting for this team. And another thing we'll say is the fan base should be ashamed of themselves. The owner should be ashamed of themselves for moving this team to Vegas, where the entire stadium is purple. I just can't deal with it watching this anymore. Like it's atrocious. Like you have to field a better product. It's almost laughable that what this owner has done. Like we were a playoff team. I was watching some old Gruden things, 2021, Bisaccia. Like we had a core group of guys with Carr. Like I just want to see, I want to root for something. Like watching this game, I didn't care. Like there's no energy in the fan base anymore. And it's gonna take a whole lot to re-energize us. I think I want to go with Jim Harbaugh. I just think watching what Sean Payton has done for the Denver Broncos, turning them into what was the worst team in the league, and now they're a playoff contender. They're one game out of the AFC West lead with Sean Payton. So I think you got to go proven guy if you can. If he's willing to come, I think Mark Davis has to make the move. But because if you hire another coordinator, that we did that with McDaniels, it doesn't work. Like it's so hit or miss with these young offensive coordinators, where yeah, you can get a Mike McDaniel, or you can get a Josh McDaniels. Like you don't know what's going to happen. So
It's weird how Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton are born 6 days apart. They're the same age, and you get one of those guys, coming back to the NFL from somewhere. Like Sean Payton came from the analyst. He was doing I think he was doing Fox or something. They brought him back from there. And now if Harbaugh can come from Michigan, from college, and bring that kind of mentality they have, leave the cheating back, leave the cheating behind. But I think it's a good opportunity, and he's a proven winner. I mean, he took the 49ers to the Super Bowl and then to the NFC Championship 2 years in a row, 2013 and 2014. So it's like, or yeah, 2012 season and 2013 season. But that's one route. And then the other way to go would be hiring one, like you said, one of these coordinators, but that never really works. I mean, that always puts it like, at risk essentially for going through a whole rebuild. And I think if you go that route, then it's like, think about it, dude. These guys like Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs, do they really stay, and play for a guy who's not really proven himself? I think the only way you get Josh Jacobs to stay and you keep Davante from requesting a trade or leaving or whatever, I think you have to get Jim Harbaugh, and you have to get a quarterback. Any sort of quarterback will do if you get Jim Harbaugh. If you get a rookie, you draft a rookie, or you get Justin Fields, or you get another veteran. There's not many available, but I think that's the only way that these guys, these superstars on offense, supposed superstars on offense, decide to stay.
Yeah. I want to ask you this. If the Jets were willing to give us a first round pick in next year's draft for Davante, would you pull the trigger?
No, I don't.
Uh,
I don't think that makes us better because they're going to be good next year with Rodgers coming back, and that draft pick is going to be a late pick. It's going to be in the 20s for sure, and I don't think that helps us at all. And we have bad history with 20s picks. I mean, Gary Conley in the 20s, and then Damon Arnett in the 20s, Jonathan Abram in the 20s. I mean, we just have history of picking bad defensive backs. So
See, I think I would disagree with you there because with Davante, I don't even know if he wants to be a Raider anymore because if we have another rookie quarterback, obviously none of the quarterbacks on our roster now are going to be starting next year. We know that. So if we're bringing in a rookie, Jaden Daniels, I don't know if he wants to go through that again, a whole other quarterback change. So let him go. I think he wants to go back to his boy Aaron Rodgers. So like you can see his body language on the field, and I know I'm critiquing him a lot today, but you see when he the ball will go through his feet and he'll drop a pass or incomplete. He just doesn't seem in it. That's my opinion. I don't know the man himself, but it just doesn't seem like he wants to be a Raider right now. And if you got guys who don't want to be on the team, you got to move off. So we'll see how it all transpires in the offseason. Like it's just going to be this is going to be the biggest offseason we've had in I think the last 10 years because we had some success under Derek Carr and it's just it feels like we're back in like 2008 and 2009 where we just had no direction. We had like Carson Palmer, we had Terrell Pryor. Like there's no, I don't see any direction with this team. So
yeah, and I can go on and on about that. I mean, like firsthand, starting with Lane Kiffin drafting Jamarcus Russell in '07, then Jamarcus Russell experiment till '09, gave him that fake film, and then he got cut. And then '09, it was just like, oh, where do we go from here? They signed Jason Campbell, grizzled veteran from Washington. They think, oh, like he could be the next big thing. He wins 8 games for us in '09, and then he gets hurt. And then Bruce Gradkowski, another grizzled veteran, comes in and wins the last 3 games and gets us to 8-8 before week 17. Of course, we lose and we miss the playoffs. And then 2010, same thing. It's like, oh, like let's see what happens. Like it's the 2010-11 season. We're like, oh, Jason Campbell's back. Then Jason Campbell gets hurt again. Then it's like, oh, Bruce Gradkowski walked. So it's like, what do? You trade for Carson Palmer. They make that move and get Carson Palmer. Then it's like, oh, Carson Palmer is gonna take this team, to the promised land and whatever. He sucks. I mean, he does nothing. He had a few good games. Then by 2012, he's on Arizona. They get rid of him and he goes to Arizona. Then 2012, 13, you get Terrell Pryor and then Matt McGloin comes in. Then it's like, oh, Carr, we draft Carr, the chosen one, first pick of the second round. Like, oh, we're gonna finally have the chosen one. And then sure enough, it just fails. Like, he doesn't win much his first year, second year, third year, oh, 12-4, like we're gonna, do it. Breaks his leg in week 16. So it's like, I mean, this organization, I mean, I hate to say it, it kind of feels like we're sort of cursed in a way. I mean, I can't
yeah,
believe how much we've gone through, and now yet again, after 2022 offseason, Josh McDaniels gets hired, we trade for Davante Adams, then that experiment goes to shit. And I think it's time we start putting it on the owner. I think it's time we start putting the Raiders' failure on the shoulders of Mark Davis and not just who's coach and whatever. Because at the end of the day, if you're hiring these shit guys to coach the team, it's not going to
yeah,
go anywhere as it is. And Al Davis had that problem too. Al Davis fired the only guy who won 8 games ever, like in 10 years, won 8 games from '03 to 2010. For 7 years, we didn't win shit. You get Tom Cable, he turns the culture around, we win 8 games, you fire him. You promote Hugh Jackson to head coach, he wins 8 games, you fire him. I mean, the
Yeah.
the Hugh Jackson firing was on Mark Davis though, because Al Davis died. Al
Yeah.
Davis passed away that week 5. We beat Houston. I'll never forget that game. And Michael Huff had the game-winning interception in the end zone. They only had 10 players on the field on the
Yeah.
last play. I'll never forget that. And he intercepted the ball and we won the game. And then sure enough, that end of the season, week 17, we played the Chargers. I remember I was watching, we were all watching. We were all there. Your dad was there, your uncle was there. We were all at the house, at my house. We were watching that game. Philip Rivers just destroyed us that last game in Oakland Coliseum. And we missed the playoffs again. We finished 8-8. We had a chance to go 9-7. That year, the AFC West was shit. Chargers won the division that year at 9 and
Yeah.
7. And then now, look, right back at the beginning. Like we're right back
Exactly.
at the beginning, and it's going to be interesting to see. But I mean, we'll keep recording, guys. We'll keep putting out videos as the season goes on. There's no like, there's no like, oh, we're gonna like just take an off season like the Raiders. We're gonna be there every step of the way and see what happens. Even if we hire an assistant coach, we'll go live and we'll talk about it. But it's not looking very good right now. But it's never looked good. Essentially, it's never looked good for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to say, I remember I texted you, I said, if the Raiders promoted Sandra Douglas Morgan to head coach, I think you see I saw a report and it said Max Crosby adamant that Antonio Pearson, Champ Kelly should be retained. And I was thinking about it. I think if they named Sandra Douglas Morgan the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, the players would say, "Oh yeah, we like Sandra Douglas Morgan as head coach." Like these players, if the owner actually listens to his players and says, "Oh, like I'm gonna hire a guy based on what Max Crosby says," he's an idiot. You
Yeah.
can't listen to players. Like you have to make your own decision based on what you think of a person. So it's just I don't even know what to say because I don't have confidence that Mark Davis is going to get the right guy. He's consistently failed in hiring the right person for a decade now. So I don't know if he can do it. Like we all see, we want Jim Harbaugh. The whole fan base thinks Jim Harbaugh should be the guy, but we don't know what goes through Mark Davis's head.
And if you
It's
don't get Jim
possible.
Harbaugh, I think you hire the GM first and you let the GM call the shots, because in the past McDaniels called the shots and Ziegler was overshadowed, and before that Gruden called all the shots and Mayock was overshadowed. So it's like I think now it's time to change something up. Maybe hire the GM first and then bring the
Yeah,
coach in instead of bringing them in at the same time. We haven't had a good GM since Reggie McKenzie had, a good year and then a decent years, like, decent years in 15 and 17, winning 7, 8 games. But the Mayock Gruden era was really, I mean, the epitome of the Raiders trying to turn things around, and they turned it around. They really did. But it just came down to, you know, execution by the NFL to pull the plug on the Gruden experiment. And the NFL really fucked us over, to be honest. Like the NFL really, really has always put us through a lot. From the Tuck rule to throwing the Super Bowl in 2002, Bill Callahan bullshit. I mean, we just continue to get screwed by the NFL too. And I mean, if you kept Gruden these last 2 years, maybe we wouldn't have got Davante Adams, but who knows? It still was going better than it is now. I mean, we took a really bad team and turned it from 4-12 to 8-8, and then we kept going up.
the ten
Five,
and seven,
yeah, 10-7, five
and
and two.
yeah, the way our team was looking before with the early days of that season when we went 10-7, the first 5 weeks of the season when we had Gruden, our offense was so dangerous. I remember we beat the Ravens on Monday night. Then we beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh, which we haven't been able to do in 2 years. Then we beat Miami. We go 3-0. And I was at that Charger game
Me too.
where we
I was
were
there.
down 21-0, and we almost came back with Ruggs. So we had such a explosive offense with Carr and Gruden. And like that's what I was saying with Davante earlier is that we didn't have our number one receiver was Ruggs that year. It was Ruggs and Brian Edwards, like two rookies or two second-year players. So you need to get youth and speed at receiver, not old 30-year-old Davante Adams. So like there's so many different ways to do it in the NFL. Like Mike McDaniel, young, weird guy. Andy Reid, old play caller. Like there's so many different there's no one archetype of head coach and GM that you can hire. You just got to hire the right guy. So it's up to Mark Davis. Like hire the GM, like you said, if there's someone available. Uh, I think Adam Peters, the 49ers GM, or he's like an assistant GM for them. Someone like him, he would be perfect. So it's up to the owner at this point. Like as fans, we can only watch the games, voice our opinions, but at this point, it's up to the owner to make the right move.
Yeah, and I think you have to get someone from a winning team to be your GM. You don't look towards a shit team, like Carolina and hire their assistant GM. You look towards the 49ers, Eagles, Bills, even Cincinnati has done such a good job of turning everything around. You look at those kind of teams and try to figure out where you're gonna go and who you're gonna get. I think you hire the GM first and then
Yeah,
you look for a coach
I
because
agree.
the coach has all the say unless it's Harbaugh because Harbaugh is that experienced guy. Like Sean Payton has most of the say in Denver, which I would be okay with if Jim Harbaugh had most of the say. But I you have to get the GM first if that's the route you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, Raider Nation, appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it's been tough recently, but hopefully we lose Thursday night and move closer to that top 3 draft pick.
Thanks, yo.